Okay, you can sit down. The noise swims through my ear towards me. The sweet melodic sound begins to pour into my head, and the music touches my ears and the bliss deepens. But what's happening? Why am I feeling this way with something invisible that travels through frequencies? Some people today will go on about themselves believing that music is simply something we hear, just a noise. But there's no denying the effect it has on the mind, the body, and the emotions. I'm here today to show you just what that noise does. To do this, let's first take a look at how the brain processes sound. When a book is dropped, that sound is captured by the outer ear and is led to the eardrum through the ear canal. Here, the sound vibrations are processed by the eardrum and translated into patterns that allow the sound to be heard through the correct frequency. The sound then enters the cochlea, a spiral-shaped bony cavity that makes up the auditory portion of the ear. The cochlea is filled with a fluid that is able to detect those frequencies sent from the eardrum from the sound heard. From the cochlea, the patterns are sent to the brain. The brain has many neurons that first accept those patterns and decodes them to send them as signals to the brain. Signals such as if the sound is low or high, or soft or loud, and so on. In turn, the brain will analyze that sound. The brain will take the signals from the neurons, divide them, and determine the key things from the sound heard. In a way, the brain almost filters the sound. An example might be if I'm standing in a room having a conversation with an individual. My brain will hear that that person is talking along with all the clutter in the room. But it allows me to focus on the conversation I'm having instead of being bothered and disrupted by all the noise going on behind me. So now let's see what music tells the brain to do. Music is said to be one of the only things that triggers every part of the brain while being processed. The brain takes in music like any other noise, but it does more than just hear it. Music is not only listened to, but it makes our bodies feel. When our favorite song comes on the radio, our bodies begin to show signs of emotional arousal. Our pupils will dilate, and our heart rate rises, which increases blood flow throughout the body. The blood flow is then redirected to our legs and through our feet, at the same time as the part of the brain associated with movement strangely becomes active. Some will use this to argue that this is why we tap our foot. But why does this happen? Many other people asked the same question and developed a study formed to understand the effects of music and what it has on the body and why. It's called A Few Variations of the Neuroscience of Music. It found that in our minds, music doesn't just have an effect on us during the climax of the song, but also afterwards, and our mind anticipates the climax. This is called the anticipatory phase, which takes place in the moments before our favorite part of the song is played. Just before the climax of the song hits, a generous amount of dopamine is released through the brain and the parts that activate stimulus responses that are usually released to reinforce actions of rewarding stimuli. Like if when something is pleasant, the mind remembers and rewards the body to make sure that happens again. Our minds have evolved to understanding music as something like an reward, but it also recognizes it much more than that. One study showed that different forms of music affect how we can interpret faces. People who were brought in to be a part of the experiment were given short pieces of music to listen to. Some of the pieces of music were sad and melancholy, while others were happier and lighter. After they had finished listening to their pieces, each person was given a picture of a face with a neutral expression on it and asked to determine what kind of emotion they thought the person was feeling. The people who had listened to the sad music generally associated the face with emotions of depression or anxiety or sadness, while the people who had listened to the brighter music tend to associate the face with happy emotions. Their interpretation changed because of the way they were affected by the music they had heard. Along with the faces, our mind also recognizes actions as well. There is a theory that a person's love of music is rooted in mirror neurons. Mirror neurons mirror what we see and send the message to the brain of what's happening. If we see someone playing the violin or chopping wood, parts of the brain used to complete those tasks will light up in the observer's mind as well as the one completing the action. It's not the same for the observer as completing the action themselves, but our brains simulate it. It has also been found that the same recognition occurs when we watch someone exercise. Our minds will recognize a person's movements and mimic them in the same areas of the brain that completing the task would cost. Our heart rates will also increase. Music has an effect on the heart that we don't really realize, just as it does the mind. Your body is so involved in music when it's playing that it's hard to believe we don't know what's happening. Your heart will quicken or slow depending on the tempo of the music being sung, played, or listened to. When the tempo is fast, your heart will speed up to match the tempo of the music, as well as slow to match the slow tempo in a song. It has been said that music enhances athletic performance, and while this is not necessarily true, it does help you exercise and it provides health benefits. The United States Sports Academy let out a report in one of their sports issues of the Sports Journal in 2002 where they said that listening to music did not help athletes perform, and it almost did the opposite, but athletes exposed to music track while doing a workout felt less pain and lower exertion levels than those who did not have music while working out. In 2009, a study done by the Massachusetts General Hospital that was published in the Harvard Health Letter showed that music helps with blood pressure. People who listen to music about 20 to 30 minutes every day had lower blood pressure levels and a lower heart rate than those who did not listen to music. It has many other health benefits that go past the heart and the blood. Music has been known to be used for developmental purposes in infants and toddlers. The way it stimulates the brain is supposed to increase the ability of perception and problem solving. In using the same theory, it is argued that music that is being heard and interpreted can activate pathways for neurons in the brain connected to long-term memory. It has been known for people with Alzheimer's disease to retrieve memory lost while listening to certain kinds of music, and not just in memory, but in other parts of the brain does music have this kind of effect. Like I said before, music is one of the only things that can trigger the entire brain. When it does this, it sets off neurons all throughout different regions of the brain, such as the muscular, auditory, visual, and linguistic areas. There was a man by the name of Oliver Sacks who wrote about a man who had brain damage and could only get through his daily routines while singing. Simple tasks like getting dressed or doing the dishes were lost to him due to his brain damage, but were easily given back to him while he sang through them. I once met someone who had a stutter ever since he was young, and it came out through his speech constantly. He was a musician, and while he played and sang, the stutter was never there in his music. Unlike many people believe, there is so much more in music than sound. It not only stimulates your brain, but it really does activate it. Your mind, emotions, and body are affected greatly by music, and most of the time we don't even realize it. So now that you all know just a small portion of what music does to you and can do for you, what do you think of it?